In this episode, I'm going to point out similarities, how some questions are answered, proof that an actor is bowing out gracefully, and prove that, dare I say, Scott Gimple did something better. Following with a ranting about how this franchise has not mastered seasonal pacing yet. Hit the button. Let's get started. In this episode, episode 14 of a 16-episode season 9, we are given a very strong character-driven narrative that shows the acting chops in some of the cast that we haven't gotten a chance to see as we explore Michonne and Daryl's secret past. Hey there, hi there, ho there, Andrew here, the horror host of Generations X, Y, and Z inside Davis Manor, finding humor and horror, talking TV shows, movies, and haunts, and this is Walker Wednesdays. If you have no idea what I'm talking about when I say Walker Wednesdays, click that link above. You can go ahead and see my entire playlist of Walker Wednesdays. It's basically my thoughts of The Walking Dead on a per episode basis on there. I do them on Wednesdays because I want to give plenty of time to anybody that has watched it or wanted to watch it on Sunday because I give out spoilers. And by the way, new t-shirt. Has anyone noticed? We start off this episode with a wait for it, flashback. Seriously, do not jump ahead 6 years into the future only to keep on jumping back 6 years to tell stories that have happened in said time jump. In the flashback, we see Michonne and Daryl on their own personal quest trying to find Rick's body when he blew up in the bridge. Well, he didn't blow up the bridge. I mean, he blew up the bridge, but he didn't. You know what I'm talking about. Anyways, the only thing that comes out of that is Michonne finds Rick's gun, and now we know how Judith comes to own it. So yeah, there's one answer that we just found out, and also this episode we find out how Michonne and Daryl got their scars. I mean, this episode is called Scars, so it would make sense. And you are going to see plenty of similarities in this show. I mean, this episode is basically Michonne's story to tell, and as with most one-offs there are, when it comes to a cast member, we have to go through a template of why is the character distant, what made them this way, give us a aha moment, and everything now makes sense. And with this episode, it is totally by the numbers on that. We have seen this in many other episodes with some of the cast that's out there. Carol had an episode that was called The Same Boat, even though her storyline kind of started on an episode that was called Not Tomorrow Yet. Morgan had an episode that was called Eastman, same thing along there. And even Daryl had his time when it came with spending a little bit of time with Beth and then also with Joe and the Claimers, just to go ahead and show why these characters are the way they are. This episode, like I said, revolves around Michonne. She has found an old friend named Jocelyn who was her friend before the apocalypse. Jocelyn was basically taking care of a bunch of children that didn't have any parents. Jocelyn said that the parents didn't make it. You know, she said they broke, whatever that means. But the truth comes out by the end of the episode, and that is that Jocelyn has dispatched the parents so she could groom the children into becoming a zombie-killing army that would take care of her. And you can see some of the logic and the completely illogical thought process of that. If kids grew up in this zombie apocalypse and they were cold-hearted, they could survive anything and not be shaken at all. They wouldn't understand how messed up the world they live in is. It's kind of like a global Stockholm syndrome. And we see Jocelyn's grooming technique in which the kids brand Daryl and Michonne, Jocelyn making them not feel anything when they have to do something morally unethical. Hello, alpha subtext. This experience was the turning point for Michonne. She was very optimistic back when Rick was alive. Well, technically he's still alive, he's just not there anymore, but Iron Fist by today's timeline. And that makes complete sense when you think about it. She was betrayed by an old friend, endangered a new friend, almost lost her child as well as all of the other children in Alexandria when Jocelyn kidnapped them. And this is definitely a swan song episode for Denai Guerrera. Normally, we see Michonne very unemotional, I guess you could say, and she shows all of the emotions in this episode. Denai, the actress that plays Michonne, shows her biggest range in this episode when it comes to her emotions out there, and it will probably help her land different roles in bigger projects down the road. I mean, she shows joy, she shows confusion, fear, pain, anger, relief. I mean, the whole thing, the whole gambit of it all. And she does these incredible scenes with Jeffrey Dean Morgan as Negan and Kaylee Fleming's Judith as well. They were just beautiful scenes, how they bounced off the chemistry between both of those two actors, Kaylee and Denai, and Jeffrey Dean and Denai as well. Like I said, this is a swan song episode for the actor. And if you don't know what the term swan song is, it refers when a performer does one last performance before retiring. And if you've read things on the internet, it seems that Denai will be leaving the show in the next season. This episode gives the answers we need about Michonne, and her character really doesn't have any loose ends anymore. If Michonne does the Maggie or Heath thing with little RJ, then she might be able to go ahead and end up in the movies with Andrew Lincoln's Rick, and the fans will be able to retire the Michonne relationship. However, as episodes go, I hate to admit this, but I gotta give credit where credit is due, and Gimple did this better with the episode Eastman. We got to understand in a flashback story, I'm not knocking that one on there, that Morgan went to go and tell Owen the Wolf on how he became who he was at that point in time. And I can't gush over more about that episode. This episode, however, had too many issues, like too many flashbacks, even though that I enjoyed the director, whose name I think is Millicent Shelton. Yeah, why not? Anyways, the director's choice of filters to prove what was a flashback and what wasn't, even though it still got annoying and was confusing to the part-time viewer. Also, we didn't need all the people that was in this episode. During flashbacks, we see Eugene, Aaron, Rosita, and others briefly, and I do mean briefly, just quick enough for them to score a paycheck for being in another episode, and I blame legal and contracts on that more than the writing team. And speaking of writing, this story felt contrived. I mean, the storytelling could have been a little bit more organic if there was less characters that were involved. Besides Michonne, Daryl, and Jocelyn, I mean, less is more. And that comes to my biggest gripe of this episode. Why? Why is this episode 14? We have 16 episodes in this season. Yes, this episode tells us a lot. Yes, it gives us answers, but it is still a filler episode. We only have 2 episodes left of this season. Then we all go on a break, including the writers. The Eastman episode was episode 4. We all knew it was a filler because it was episode 4, not episode 14. And contrary to popular belief, this is a weekly serial show, meaning that you don't binge watch it. Yeah, in 10 to 20 years, when the next generation wants to watch this show, they can go right into the next episode the following hour. We, however, have to wait a week. So do us a favor. The last 3 or so episodes in the season should be a 3-part act for the season finale, not a filler episode. This show has been losing steam, it's been losing focus and viewers. I want to see what happens when Rick and Carl Grimes are no longer in the picture on this show. This is great territory to be in. The comic book fans don't even know what's going on. Stop screwing it up already. Give us a bad guy that we fear. Alpha and Beta are terrifying. They are cast perfectly. Now give us heroes to stop them. Give us a redemption story as well. Negan is the perfect choice for that. Give us a villain who does things in a chaotic good way so we can root for them without feeling too guilty. Okay? And thin the herd. When I say thin the herd, I don't mean the walkers. I mean the dead weight of actors that are there. You know, the characters that you're not doing anything. You could spend that money on special effects or, dare I say, top-notch writers. What would top-notch writers do? They'd give us plots, settings, characters, stories that would make us feel, and the actors then could go ahead and emotionally bond us with those characters and stories, because that's what they do best. This show has shown time and time again, when an actor is given a good script, the possibilities are endless. But man, The Walking Dead has yet to master seasonal pacing, and we're going on 10 seasons already. You have 16 episodes. Episode 1, 8, 9, and 16. They are the season and mid-season premieres and finales. That's 25% of the season right there. They have to be rock solid. Enough that people will go ahead and talk about it and say, hey, did you see The Walking Dead premiere? No, I gave up on that show. No, man, it's really good. You got to go back and watch it. And that means that the follow-up episode has to be equally as good. So, Episode 1 and 9 have to have a strong 2 and 10. And now we're pushing almost 40% of the show at that point. So that means we can have, 2 or 3 fillers, but make them episodes 3 and 4 or 11 and 12. That way you do not mess with the flow going in or out of the season premieres and finales. These are character building moments in these seasons. Those filler episodes. The overall arc of the story cannot be messed up with. It's what holds the show together. The problem is that there are so many characters out there that you want to develop everybody, and you can't. And the actors wonder, why are they even there? You have people like Tom Paine, who played Jesus, such an important character in the comic book, okay? The actor felt useless, requested to be killed off. He's making a mid-five figures on there. So let's just say if he was making $62,000, $63,000 an episode, okay, because like Norman Reedus is making like $800,000. Okay, if he was making 62, 63, that means by the end of the season, after 16 episodes, he would have made $1 million. What actor would go ahead and turn away $1 million? An actor that doesn't think that they're acting. That's what. All in all, this was a good episode. I enjoyed the acting. However, the story flow could have been tightened to provide a better story. And the direction of the flashbacks to avoid showing Michonne fighting kids with her katana, I think was tasteful and appreciated. I know that Robert Kirkman would have shown it all on the comic books, but hey, this is TV, and it was the right choice for that. This episode made me want to learn more about Michonne, Daryl, Judith, and Negan, and that is a good thing. But please give us more in the last 2 episodes. And make sure you hit the bell icon after you sub so you become part of the notification squad and get notified the moment that I upload. And I will see you in the next video.